Yes, folks, Nigel Farage has quite literally dumped Laura Kuenssberg. And no, they weren't dating, by the way. What happened is Reform have just pulled out of a BBC documentary, which is going to be made by the firm that was behind the Donald Trump documentary, which was a lie. It's a production company called October Films, and the BBC commissioned it to make a documentary about the rise of Nigel Farage and Reform. And it was going to be titled The Rise of Reform. And it was going to be hosted by BBC Politics presenter Laura Kuenssberg. They sent an internal memo to all its MPs, councillors, etc. And it said, and I quote, "As you will be aware, October Films have been filming a documentary with Kuenssberg on the rise of reform. As part of this, they have been visiting and filming at reform councils and speaking to our councillors and council leaders across the country. We want to be clear that October Films have always conducted themselves professionally, and there is no suggestion from our side that they would maliciously represent Reform UK. However, following the Panorama documentary, the trust has been lost," end quote. I think that email mentions tongue-in-cheek that particular firm wouldn't maliciously misrepresent Reform. Of course they will. That's what they do. They did it with Trump and his speech, infamously. They did it with Tommy Robinson, Panodrama. Remember that? So, of course, it would be stupid for Nigel Farage and Reform to allow these shysters to make a documentary about them and expect them to tell the truth and represent them fairly. Of course, they wouldn't. Reform and the BBC are poles apart politically. So why work with them in the first place? I wouldn't trust them. I mean, as a right-winger, would you trust the BBC to represent you fairly at all? Of course you wouldn't. That would be just dumb. Look, the mainstream media aren't fans of Nigel Farage, and they're not fans of Reform. Yes, I have some questions about Reform and how they conduct their business, how they've treated councillors who disagree with them, and Rupert Lowe. Yeah, there are questions to answer, but they do not get represented fairly by the mainstream media. That's a fact. So this is a good decision here by Nigel Farage and Reform to step away completely from the BBC and this company and not trust them to present an honest and fair and unbiased version to the public. What do you reckon? Let me know in the comments. I'm Paz49. Thanks for listening. And until the next time, Roger Trout.